Good morning, everyone. It's Nancy Narden from Smart Selling Tools, and I am so excited to have the topic today of our webinar, how Passport, which you'll learn about, scaled their customer revenue and happiness. That's the part that I like. But it's my pleasure to have two gentlemen with me today, as you can see from the video and the slide. We have Srisha Ramdas with us. He's the co-founder and CEO of a company called Strikedeck. Welcome, Srisha.
Thank you, Nancy, for having me here.
And we have Damien Howley. He's the VP of Client Success at Passport. Welcome, Damien.
Thank you very much, Nancy. It's great to be here.
How we're going to do this webinar, just to let folks on the line know, is that I'm going to have a conversation basically, mostly with Damien at the beginning, because I like to just talk about, understanding a particular customer and what they found they needed, what their challenges were, what solutions and why they went with them, what the outcome has been. So it's going to be a good conversation. That'll be about 30 minutes, and Srisha will participate in that as well. And then at about 30 minutes in, we will ask another one on the Strikedeck team to join us and take us through just a little bit of what Strikedeck looks like, so you can see it. After we've talked about it, it's always good to see what does it actually look like. I will just mention to people that if you do have questions throughout the program here, you can go ahead and enter them into the box. If we aren't able to answer those during the session, then we will certainly provide those answers to you afterwards in an email. And last, we are recording this, so if you do want to listen to it again or share it with a colleague, you'll be able to do that. All right, with that, let's get started, Damien. The first thing I want to ask and have you talk about is, what does Passport do, so people can understand a little bit about the organization?
Absolutely. So Passports is arguably a startup, if you will, out of Charlotte, North Carolina. And we focus on effectively smart transportation. So think of mobile parking payments, mobile transit passes, mobile tolling, all in the realm of transportation and with an underpinning of payments. And so we do a lot of very small payments through our system. We were founded in 2010 and got our roots in the mobile parking. So think of it, instead of putting coins into a meter, you pull up your phone, you start a session, you can extend it remotely. We spread throughout North America. We're predominantly North America based with some clients in the UK. And we've got close to 500 clients. So that's the kind of the gist of Passport, if you will.
Okay. I do want to ask you about who you sell to, right? Who's your main customer? Is it government entities, or is it a mix of commercial and government?
It's a mix with a high majority of government.
Okay.
So think of it, I'll give you a couple examples. We run the city of Chicago as parking through an app called Park Chicago. So under the hood, nobody knows that it's our technology. They just see, the highly branded and native experience for the city of Chicago, and so on and so forth for Boston, for Austin, as the list goes on, for London. So it's a native white labeled experience for that city, and most of that is done through a formal procurement process. So we work.
Yeah, that's difficult, right?
Yeah, and we work with the cities, and we predominantly work in conjunction with anybody they've got anywhere they've got meters. So it's on-street parking. That's a core area for us.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, and because you're selling to the government, and that's not easy, and once you're in, you want to stay in, and so client success becomes extremely important, I would say, for any company that's selling to someone that it's painful to sell to, and once you have them, you don't want to lose them and have to obtain another company to replace them or another customer to replace them. All right, so before we get into more details, I like to have the customer, if you will, talk about or describe, let's say that you're, telling your 6-year-old, what does Strikedeck do? How would you describe what it does?
So I have a 2-year-old, so I'm not
Okay.
quite there on that level. But I would describe it as our central hub for all client activities and intelligence within Passport. It's facilitated us transitioning from being a completely reactive team to being a near almost proactive team. So we have, as startups grow and you bring on more and more specialized software, and Strikedeck's made that manageable and digestible in a fast format, so that we are very informed when we engage clients. We're very value oriented during our interactions. And so to sum it up for the 6-year-old, a centralized hub for everything related to the client.
Okay, that's interesting because isn't that what CRM is?
Yes, well, good point. Where the CRM lacks, I mean, the CRM is one contributing piece into Strikedeck. So then the CRM is not connected to your product utilization, your user health. It's not connected to your financial systems, or some cases it is,
Okay.
or your dev ticketing systems, or so I think CRM is one piece of the puzzle,
Okay.
and it's aiming to be a bigger, piece of the puzzle, but it lacks greatly on user data and product adoption data and all those
Got it.
statistics and analytics.
Okay. Shrisha, let me see if you have anything you want to add to that. I'm sure you do.
So my 6-year-old definition would be, customer success. Strikedeck provides a way to automate customer happiness. But Nancy, I have older kids, so my definition would be Strikedeck is a customer success platform focused on 3 outcomes: retention, how do you protect your existing revenues? Expansion, how do you get more from your install base? And third is advocacy, how do you get your customers to influence new sales?
Hmm. Okay. Excellent. Thank you. Okay, now let's jump into the project itself, Damien. So you're the VP of Customer Success. Was there one day you woke up and said, gee, this, my life is, painful right now. We don't have the information we have. What was it that was going through your head that you said, we've got to do something differently?
Yeah, it was painful. Um, so this is my third customer success team, if you will, like responsibility. And so when I got to Passport, we were at a hyper growth mode um, in the marketplace with clients, with adoption, and did not necessarily have the internal resources to catch up at the pace that we were growing. It's a pretty common but also significant inflection point for a startup, and that was going on as I landed here last year. And so, as with a lot of startups, this causes a situation where your customer success team is immensely reactive and digging, out of, I call it commitment debt. This notion that there are promises, and then you cannot necessarily get ahead of them to fulfill them. And I've seen it at every other team that I've been at, so it wasn't foreign concept to me. But I needed to shift the conversation to be proactive and get in front of these situations, and frankly, train the client to think differently about the customer success team. So Strikedeck brought in, when we rolled, I knew I was going to, I was in need of data. I knew I was going to solve it through a system like Strikedeck, and then when we started, looking at the software, it was clear that this was a solution that was going to help me transition from reactive to proactive. So then, once we had all our data inside Strikedeck, we were immediately empowered to talk about usage patterns and health and have alerts come to us ahead of time. We were beating the client, so we could tell them about a problem instead of them telling us about a problem. So the biggest win was that transition from reactive to proactive, and changing the expectation of the client and the way that they engaged our team.
Okay. I do want to get into metrics, but we'll save that for a little bit later. I want to know a little bit more about the details. So how you knew that you needed data in a system like Strikedeck. How did you go about figuring out who you should evaluate? Were there other, you don't have to say who there was, but like what were the main things that you were looking for in a solution?
Yeah, I mean, we went through a procurement process, if you will. You know, we did our due diligence, right? Like as anybody should. When it came to Strikedeck, there was effectively a very immensely powerful application with an organization that I could immediately tell was, you know, young and hungry, for a lack of terms, like was going to make a change in this vertical, was going to be an influencer, and somebody who kind of acted like all the companies I've joined, all early stage startups. I know what that feeling is like. I love it, and I could see that in the Strikedeck team, and so that was what drew me in. Their ability to give me tangible, real, demoable experiences, and I used my experiences inside Passport to make decisions with my executives. Remember, I'd only been employed here for a month, and I was trying to bring in an enterprise piece of software. That's a big roll of the dice for me. So we were able to connect a couple things, and immediately it became apparent that the ability for Strikedeck to move quickly and be engaged in something that was meaningful for me personally as a buyer and my company was there. And so it wasn't a confusing or challenging decision when it came down to it.
Okay. And did you do a POC, a proof of concept? How would you suggest that other people, you know, having been through it, go about making a decision and testing it and making sure it's the right one for them?
Yeah, I'd say do a POC. You know, I think we did like a short POC. We tested the software. It gave us access to it. We also, I mean, Strikedeck was immensely well suited out of the box to connect to systems like Salesforce and others. So that was pretty quick, where we could have tangible, real results. We had to connect to some of our own systems, like our own product, to get usage data. And we have arguably 5 different products. We have 5 different flows of data, with some of them having anywhere from 6 to 10 different metrics that we want to track. And that was something we slowed down as a vendor. We had to do the development to bring those to life. But other than that, other than our proprietary data, we were able to get a demoable environment to show to our leadership team, to our executives. It was great.
Okay. And what were some of the things you wanted to be able to demo?
For us, it was a macro data set, if you will. So all clients, all products, like a universal sense of what's going on across the entire client base. Segmentation. So we sell to predominantly municipalities, but then also universities and airports and private operators, and so we wanted to be able to segment by that, or by tier, or by CSM, or by sales rep. We wanted, intelligence is what we wanted. Mm-hmm. Action. So there's a lot of automations that you can do on the flip side of like health scoring, or you can, initiate different playbooks or tasks based on activities that happen within the data set. So we wanted a real actionable playbook so that we could scale the organization. Yeah, it was kind of just, we wanted health scoring. I kind of alluded to that earlier. Red, yellow, green.
And that's sort of a metric in and of itself. So I do want to get into the outcomes of the project, but let's talk about the concept of customer happiness. What's usually required to keep a customer happy? I mean, sometimes it just comes down to the basics, right? Then the devil's in the details. what are the main things that you look for, that you think people should look for to make sure their customers are happy?
So I might be mildly controversial here, but I don't care if they're happy. So, and this is,
Okay.
if you met my team, they're probably all laughing. I care that they're extracting the maximum amount of value for them and their careers out of our software, which will 99% of the time mean that they're pretty happy. But happiness is a result of value. So we're really focused on the core influencers of happiness. If somebody, I talked about this actually yesterday, if somebody is buying software and then leaving it on the shelf and never using it, they're A, not extracting any value, B, they're definitely not going to be happy, and C, they're not going to renew, and they're not going to grow with you. They're not going to champion your product or promote it, or your whole relationship with them is going to end. So everything we measure in Strikedeck is all around the exchange of value, and we have. It was pretty new for me at Passport. We have a pay-per-use model. I mean, think of it as like Google AdWords, like pay-per-click. Every time our software is used, we make incremental sums of money. And so I've only ever worked in annual recurring license models, and it's a totally different dynamic because it's a little bit more authentic in the sense that we are 100% conjoined with our client on a success metric. Basically,
Right.
what makes them successful is equally what makes us successful. So it's a very authentic pricing model. It's cleared up a lot of things. Conversely, when it doesn't have things like auto renewal periods or 3-year or 5-year license periods. Like, you have to earn the right to stay with that client. So it's really up the ante for what we have to do from a client success engine. So yeah, happiness is an outcome that I think is best achieved through continual value delivery to your client base.
Mm-hmm. And what would you say are the indicators of whether or not someone's getting value?
It's whatever is important to the client. So at different companies, it means different things. And our clients care about things like revenue. I mean, they want to generate parking revenue and transportation revenue so they can invest into city infrastructure and improvements. They care about congestion. So a lot of busy cities, they want to effectively reduce congestion. They care about environmental impact. So for instance, in London, there's a surcharge on diesel vehicles. So automatically, as a lookup into the DMV, determines that you're driving a diesel vehicle, you pay 50% more. It's an environmental policy that was instituted to reduce UK emissions. And this applies at any company. Their objectives are what translate to ours. So what we measure is their use of the software. We measure things like how many transactions they have, how many transit tickets have they sold, but more importantly, how many transit tickets have been used. And there's a gap there. Like we measure things like the number of citation appeals and things that indicate that there's a problem with their environment, that they're not necessarily leveraging the software in the right way or for the right reasons for the people of those cities. So those are the things we track. They're all about the success of the program for the city. The city is our client. And so that's how we think about the exchange of value.
Okay. It's interesting because as a vendor, you want your customer to be happy, and to do that, they have to be getting the value they expected. But the value they're expecting is the input or the result that it has on their own customers.
Right.
And so if you can get ahead of that and spot some trends or spot some stats or figures, metrics that are indicators or warning signs that maybe their end customer isn't getting the value that they should be getting, then that allows you to be more proactive, which is what you talked about at the very beginning.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess I'll let you take us to the conversation of health and health score. But our health score is 100% tied to the usage and adoption. And so we have proactive, we're effectively notifying our clients, days or weeks or months ahead of them identifying that they would have issues in a certain part of town, or it's a real change in the way we engage our clients.
Yeah, that's interesting. I can't think of a lot of companies who would want to alert their customers that there might be a problem that needs to be solved. They probably normally would want to just hope that the customer never notices.
So, I mean, I think that's one of the things that's unique about customer success. And I think there's, customer success extremists out there, like who take it to the nth degree. I believe that authenticity is the best approach in customer success. If your client has a problem, you're doing them a solid by notifying them and then working through the solution. You transition from being like an account manager to being a consultant, and the level of trust and respect and transparency that comes from that position is profoundly more significant than somebody who's just managing the account. So we're trying to reach the level of trusted advisor, and it's a sincere and it's an authentic role. There's no BS about it. I literally had a slide up yesterday for a presentation, and the last point about my definition of customer success was good, bad, and ugly. That's like, if you buy a piece of software, don't you want to know that you're not using it the right way, or your customers are not using it the right way, or there's some module or something that's you're not using, or what, that's how you maximize that value.
I have a question that's come in that I'm going to go ahead and pose now because it fits right into what we're talking about. You mentioned that you are connecting a number of your own proprietary and other systems so that you can get all the data that you need in one place, a hub, I think you might have called it.
Yep.
What types of third-party systems are you connecting Strikedeck to?
Yeah, we use Salesforce. We use Jira Service Cloud, which is different than Jira. Obviously the same name. So Jira Service Cloud is our customer support ticketing system. Jira is our product management and dev system. And then we have our proprietary data. And then next on the list, we just brought in NetSuite. So we're going to be looking at financial data flowing in.
Okay. So CRM, financial, and
support,
customer
ticketing,
support and service,
and dev and product management, which all happen to be related to Jira. So
okay. Shrisha, I just want to ask you, is that kind of typical, or are there other systems that people tend to link to Strikedeck to give them the full picture?
Yeah, so a few of the customers use different CRMs. So apart from Salesforce, people use Zoho, NetSuite, Sugar CRM, Microsoft, Dynamics, SAP, right? So we connect with all of those. We connect with all the different ticketing systems, that includes Salesforce Service Cloud, Zendesk, Freshdesk, all of those. A lot of the billing systems like Zuora, right? Damien mentioned NetSuite, right? There's also a lot of people have billing information in Zuora. Then also, people even connect QuickBooks, right? To understand whether the payment has come in or not from the customer. And then the product data, we have seen that people use all kinds of systems to capture product data. It could be Mixpanel. We connect with Mixpanel. People could be using app monitoring systems like App Dynamics, New Relic. We have to pick data from there. Or it could be any of the databases. So we have a connector for MongoDB, Redshift. So, databases, data warehouse. So all of those systems we connect with, Nancy.
Okay. All right, and we're going to see what that looks like in terms of dashboards and other things when we have a kind of a mini demo in 5 minutes or so. So let's talk about the outcome. We talked at the very beginning, Damien, about, you said, yeah, I definitely had pains. You know, you had a problem that you needed to solve. How has it changed since you used, implemented Strikedeck? What does good look like, right? What are the metrics that are showing you that it's really working?
Yes, I mean, so we have key metrics for us. It's completely quota driven. I mean, I was hired to build an upsell engine, and so our success is measured in quarterly and annual upsell activity. And so those numbers, which I won't share, are very satisfactory, to say the least.
Okay.
But yeah, what it's done is it's allowed us to shift the, well, I've kind of mentioned the type of conversation, but in doing that, in being authentic and proactive and engaging, you open up a whole slew of other conversations about the value that the client needs and can potentially extract from other products in your organization. And we have effectively 4 individual pieces of software with a back office piece of software. And so we can cross-sell into those other pieces. We have a very natural cross-sell / upsell opportunity in front of us. We were maybe not nurturing as much as we have now with the intel from Strikedeck. So it's been very positive. I will also add, the data and the system is kind of table stakes, like something you have to have a system that allows you to think that way. But really then the effort of training and kind of consolidating and aligning your team to leverage these tools and engage your clients in a consistent and meaningful way, that's where a lot of the work comes up after that. The tool is almost just like, okay, here's my absolute necessity to start here so that I can then go and start ingraining these processes and these thoughts and talking points into the team to build on that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and is your team responsible in any way for cross-selling or upselling into accounts?
Yeah, we run a hybrid model. So I've run models where CS is responsible for the end-to-end sale. I've run models where CS is responsible for no selling whatsoever, and they're measured just weirdly by NPS, which I don't agree with. And then my last company, I kind of pushed on this hybrid model where CS identifies the cross-sell opportunity. They do the discovery, so they gather the necessary information, and then they pass it off to sales. And so this accomplishes a lot of things. First, it does not compromise the position, the very long, arduously earned position that CS is in. It's a position of respect, and it's a position of strength that may be earned over the course of a year or 2 years or 3 years, and you can't be willing to throw that away for a cross sell. So it retains that, because at no point is the CS rep the one trying to push for an extra 20% or an extra 30%, or they're not part of the negotiation or the contracting, or so it really creates role clarity. The other thing it does is allows us to leverage our sales reps for the pieces of the sale that they are the most skilled at. They are very, very skilled at navigating through contract management and through negotiation and through close. So I would recommend this model. It has the best outcomes, at least for what I've seen. It preserves the client success value while capitalizing on the skill sets of both teams, and it's worked out very well.
Okay. I want to go back to something that you said right before this, which was that I'll put words into your mouth here, but that when you are having fewer discussions about problems because you've hit, you've taken care of them before they really became big problems, then that frees up more time for you to have discussions about what else can we be doing? What else can we be doing to help? It also would help people feel more comfortable or confident in asking the customer for additional business because you know how satisfied they are and you know that you are doing everything for them and that you put them in a position for success. So you've earned the right to talk to them about additional products. And both of those things are not, terribly common. We often, the salesperson is expected to go in and cross-sell and upsell. They have no idea because they haven't talked to them for 6 months. So they really have no idea whether or not that customer is happy and in a good position to talk to them about more business. So those are just a couple of things that you made me think about there. I have some other questions I'm going to go ahead and ask you.
Sure.
One is that your KPIs are based on retention and expansion. That's probably not uncommon. That's my own commentary there. How do you make sure the data flowing into Strikedeck is accurate and reflects a true picture of the actual retention and expansion? So this is apart from Strikedeck. I guess it's about your other systems. How do you have faith in the accuracy?
Yeah, well, and it's probably different for everybody else out there. Our measure of health is synonymous with revenue. So one of the data points that we have going into Strikedeck is that revenue component. So it's very crystal clear to us. Revenue is either increasing or decreasing, right? And it's so that makes it clear, but that's because of our pricing model and the way that we structure. Retention is also a different beast for us. So I can talk about what I've done at other companies, but retention for us is very much based on the client's desire to continue using us. It's a pay as you go model. So we do at Passport, we do a lot of, it's a very, very high touch model. We're on site with our clients. I budget for that. One thing I've done, I brought up recently, I'm working towards shrinking my portfolio sizes. I feel that not everybody, a lot of people I talk to in client success, customer success, are trying to figure out how to get the next 50 clients, the CSM to take on another 50 clients. And I think they're scaling in the wrong way. We're going down to an immensely small portfolio for super high touch, enriched, value oriented, budgeting for on-site travel and conferences and industry things. And so we have our pulse on retention as it relates to our pricing model. In other businesses where I've ran annual recurring licenses and renewal processes, and you effectively initiate the renewal cycle, I would do it at either 180 or 270 days prior to renewal. That's when your team is going in and doing a QBR or doing a reframe or whatever they're using to get ahead of that renewal and get a pulse on what's going on. So you're effectively renewing for, and in 3 out of 4 quarters, you're pursuing a renewal of that account. Does that help? It's kind of bouncing around a little bit, but we have the growth data is present for us. The renewal is just through high touch.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I have another question that I'm going to go ahead and ask. I think it's a fair one, and that is, what problem, if any, has Strikedeck not solved for Passport that you would have liked for them to solve, or that you still would like for them to solve?
I'm having like that. I'm not having a hard time thinking of something because I'm trying to queue this up for Strikedeck. What problem have they not solved for me?
I'm taking notes, Damien.
Oh, I'm trying to think. I honestly,
it's a good question, right? Because and Strikedeck wants you to be happy, so they want to get ahead of it. So I'm sure that they want to know if there's anything that they could be doing differently.
Yeah, I think to talk more specifically,
you don't have to force yourself to come up with something.
No, but I will tell you, like we know, I know the bounds of what we should be using a piece of software for, at least Strikedeck. And so, unlike a lot of software clients, I keep us within the bounds of what we use Strikedeck for. I'm not trying to push and create like Frankenstein features and new capabilities that we shouldn't have within the realm of that. So I don't think I've gone too crazy. So yeah, you should take notes, Shrisha. I don't think I've requested too much crazy stuff, therefore not been let down. But I would be happy to come back and answer that question if I come up with something.
Okay, good answer. Okay, well, I think maybe at this point we'll go ahead and switch over and ask. We've got Ryan Lunsford with us. He is going to take us through a little. Sorry, Lunsbury. He's going to take us through a little bit of the system and how it works. So, Ryan, you should see a presenter.
Yeah, thank you, Nan.
I can see your screen. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, hello, everyone. This is Ryan Lounsbury, and yeah, I just thought I'd give you a quick little glimpse at Strikedeck from a high level. And like Damien had stated before, Strikedeck is really your central hub for all customer-related information, and we aggregate this information from a series of different systems, right? There was a great question before about the different systems that we can integrate to, and those systems are highlighted right here on this 360 dashboard. We have survey information coming into the system. We have support ticketing information or developer information coming into the system. We have product utilization information coming into the system. And most importantly, we have health metrics around the entire customer portfolio. Now, it's not just about pulling in support information and giving you a tile, but it's also about allowing you to connect with that information really easily without having to go into the support ticketing system or go into your CRM system. We're bringing all that information to the CSM, to the middle management, and to the executives with one click of the button. So you're looking at opportunities coming from Salesforce. You're looking at renewal information that's coming from Zora, let's say. You're looking at usage information coming from your product. So just to tie it back to what Damien was saying before, we're bringing in all this customer-related information, and we're marrying it up with revenue. And being able to tell you how customer health is impacting that revenue is extremely important to folks like Damien and other executives out there, because the ability to see and forecast accurately is absolutely critical. And being able who are those customers? Now, it would take any executive probably a long period of time to figure out the health of the customer when it comes to billing, ticketing, revenue, all these different things. With Strikedeck, we take all that thought process out of it and bring that information to the forefront.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there for a second. Damien, what was it like before? Were you pulling data out of different systems and running sophisticated reports to try to get at this data?
Yeah, we have our own back office, so we were able to get limited sets of data on an individual client basis. So imagine, a CSM could go and get data for one client as they needed, and it was outputted in an Excel file, and it was transactional. So if a client did 50,000 parking sessions in a day, that was one Excel file with 50,000 rows in it. So if you want to get a year's worth of data, you better start working, many, many days in advance.
Okay.
Vastly different setup, and it's a common problem. It's a problem I've seen at a lot of companies, getting that macro view of your entire client base, which is my position, and the conversation I have with the executive team is not about individual clients, it's about our entire client base.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks.
And to draw it down to the value for the person on the front line, being able to serve up to that CSM, in my particular example, my favorite CSM, David Parks, being able to just deliver to David his portfolio of customers. As you can see here, now the total number of customers is drastically reduced to just reflect David's book of business. And then David has quick snapshots of exactly what he needs to do. So we're serving up and prescribing to David, listen, these are the tasks that you need to complete today. These are the customers that you need to focus on. And here are your renewals coming up. There's no sideswipe. There's no being reactive. This is all information being brought to the forefront for David to be successful. And I think a day in the life of a CSM without technology is highly reactive and can be anxiety driven, because if they have a large portfolio, they're not really sure where the problems are at unless they pick up the phone and call everyone. We know that's just not scalable. And being able to proactively get ahead of issues and have the right conversations at the right time with your customers is extremely important. And then that's the other pillar of Strikedeck that I'd like to introduce to everybody here is the automation. And the workflow recipes that we bring to the table allows your CSMs on the front line to engage with customers in a very proactive way. Whether there's something going on within the customer due to high support ticket issues or low product usage, if the customer is not going to call the CSM and say this, the CSM needs to be able to aggregate this data and make quick actions on it. So what you're seeing here is a whole list of different workflow recipes that I've set up for my team to make them more efficient. So let's just take a look at one quick one. We do not have a client of ours that's not used the product in 5 days. I want my CSM to call the customer, okay? This is proactively trying to get ahead of a problem in month 1 instead of month 6 or 7 when it's far too late. So we'll drop a task right into that CSM's queue in that daily event and say, you must call this customer. We'll furthermore take it to the point where if there's still product utilization that hasn't been done within 10 days, we're now going to assign a playbook. And Damien talked about this before. A playbook is just a series of best practices for your CSM to achieve a specific outcome depending upon what part of the customer journey. So in this particular case, we need to increase product usage, right? I want to tell my CSM and prescribe to them, this is how we get these customers back on track. So this is automation at its finest and allowing your CSM to build that trust, to build that loyalty with that customer, to pleasantly delight them when they call up and say, we see that you're having problems. What can we do to help? If you get a detractor score, Strikedeck is going to say, hey, we received a 4 out of 10 on our NPS survey. We're going to drop a task right into that CSM's and say, give this customer a call. Find out what's going on. And it's just going back to that theme that I said before, being able to have the right conversations at the right time is exactly what the CS team needs to do to build that trust and respect and that transparency with the customer. And that's really where the value comes into play. And, it's just simple, if this, then that type of statements that help you build these workflow recipes. And then to accompany that, I know we're getting to the very end here. We also allow your customer or allow your CS team to automate engagement, right? So across a 12-month contract with your customers, they have high level of engagement with your onboarding team. But once they go through that first 2 months with them, all of a sudden your customer goes off and you're just crossing your fingers and hoping that they continue to succeed and adopt the product. And we know that that probably is not going to happen. So what our customers like to do is, based upon milestones within the customer journey, trigger adoption resources that will advance the understanding of that end user and help them realize more value. We will also pleasantly delight you, so to speak, when it comes to just sending you a nice little email saying, hey, here are all your support tickets for this week, and here's the status. All being done by automation, all being done when you think your CSM is sitting at their desk at 6 o'clock at night on a Friday. In fact, this is all Strikedeck providing this type of experience and making sure that your customers are taken care of. And, at a high level, I just wanted to make sure that everyone had a good understanding of the value. And it's all about, just a quick recap, visibility, automation, and being able to drive engagement with your customers when they need it the most. So I really appreciate this.
That's good. Yeah, no, that was a great snapshot. And we never want to, have and don't have the time for full demos. And I would just encourage folks that are on the call here today to just reach out to schedule a full demo, because obviously, you can't show everything or even too much in one setting like this. But it was a good chance to kind of just see how it works and the kind of data and insights that you can get pretty easily. We are out of time. I did get one last question though, so I'm going to, let's see, I got actually another one, see if I can have time to answer both of these. So I'm going to pick one. We'll answer the other one through an email follow-up. But Damien, what was the biggest learning or adjustment that you had to go through after implementing Strikedeck?
Yeah, I think the biggest learning for me is I'm very naturally like a systems person. I come from a front-end development background, and I really like to turn a system on and just watch it work. So I've historically invested very much into software and process, and the biggest lesson for me was you have to continuously invest in the people in your team that are leveraging this software. And it's been an evolution, an awesome evolution, as we work really closely. We have a team of 10. We're very close knit, and we're learning from each other. And Strikedeck has given us a consistent mechanism to apply our lessons as we kind of navigate this new world of B2G customer success together.
Great. Well, thank you so much again. That was a great way to end the webinar. We are officially out of time. So first of all, Damon, thank you.
Of course, happy to be.
Shrisha, good to have you with us today. Thank you for helping to put this together and helping to educate the market out there on what's available.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Damien.
Yeah, and Ryan, thank you for showing us what it looks like. I'd like to thank the audience for participating and joining us today, and also just remind you that if you would like, check out our website, smartsellingtools.com. We have a webinar almost every week, and we also have videos that in 2 to 3 minutes you can learn about solutions and identify which ones might be worth considering for your organization. That's it for today. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks for joining. Bye-bye.
Bye.